Every year, the United States Navy sends thousands of aviators through a training program designed to teach them one specific skill: how to drown. The program is called Aviation Survival Training, and the centerpiece is a device that straps a pilot into a cockpit simulator, flips it upside down, and drops it into a pool. Before the Navy institutionalized this training in the 1970s, the survival rate for helicopter ditchings was catastrophic. Pilots died trying to open doors that would not open. The solution was a mental technique that the military calls inversion thinking. Instead of asking, "How do I escape?" the pilot is trained to ask, "What would guarantee my death?" The answer is struggling against a door that just will not open. So, the pilot learns to wait. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Let the cabin flood. Let the pressure equalize. Then the door opens with one hand. The Prussian military began formalizing this approach to problem solving in the early 19th century, following their catastrophic defeat by Napoleon at the Battle of Jena in 1806. Prussia lost that battle not because their soldiers were cowards, but because their planning was linear. They asked, "How do we defeat Napoleon?" And they built a plan based on assumptions that Napoleon deliberately shattered. In the aftermath, Prussian reformers like Gerhard von Scharnhorst created a new staff system built on a different question. Not what must go right to win, but, what would cause us to lose? This became the foundation of the modern military Red Team, a group whose explicit job is to argue against the plan to find the ways it fails, and to identify the assumptions that are actually vulnerabilities. Commercial aviation adopted the same principle after a series of crashes in the 1970s that were traced to captain dominance. Co-pilots who saw a problem but did not speak up because the captain was senior. So the industry actually inverted the problem. Instead of asking, "How do we train better captains?" they started to ask, "What would guarantee a crash?" And well, the answer was pretty clear: a first officer who will not challenge a captain's error. The solution that emerged was crew resource management, a system that, explicitly trains co-pilots to speak up and captains to listen. This inversion, it's now standard practice. And honestly, it was written in blood. The United States military went through a similar inversion after Vietnam. The initial question after the war was, how do we win next time? But, a group of officers at the Army War College proposed a different question. So what actually caused us to lose in Vietnam? The answers, honestly, were pretty uncomfortable. It wasn't just about tactics or technology. The real issue was a failure to define clear objectives. And, there were these reporting systems that rewarded optimistic assessments over accurate ones. The reforms that followed, like the shift to mission command doctrine, the emphasis on after-action reviews, and the institutionalization of commander's intent, all came from this idea of inversion. Basically, they started with the failure and worked backward. The after-action review is, in a way, inversion made routine. It doesn't ask what went right. Instead, it asks, what did we expect to happen, what actually happened, and why was there a difference? And that makes all the difference, honestly. Silicon Valley adopted this as the so-called post-mortem, or, the blameless retrospective. The question is not who caused the failure, but rather, what did our assumptions miss? Interestingly, this method was taken directly from military doctrine. The mathematician Carl Jacobi, who taught at the University of Königsberg in the 19th century, famously advised his students, "Invert, always invert." He meant that Well, difficult problems become simpler when you ask what the opposite solution looks like. The Marine Corps teaches this as assumption hunting. Before an operation, the planning team lists every assumption they are making. Then, they assign an officer to kill each assumption. If the assumption survives, it becomes a point of emphasis. If it does not, the plan changes. The pilot strapped into the dunker has approximately 30 seconds before panic becomes irreversible. The training is not about physical strength. It's about overriding the brain's default setting. The default is to push against the door. The trained response is to wait. To recognize that the door that will not open is not the problem. The problem is the assumption that the door should open now. Every organization, every relationship, every career has doors that will not open when you first push on them. The instinct is to push harder. Inversion suggests a different question. What am I assuming that might be wrong? The military learned this from defeats that cost thousands of lives. They learned that asking what would make us fail is not pessimism. It is the most direct path to what actually works. Subscribe to War Machiner and share this if you value history that goes deeper.